Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today because we have some very exciting General Hospital news to talk about, and it's definitely worth the wait. I still remember sitting in my living room the other day watching General Hospital when Elizabeth decided to stop by Willow's house. She wasn't planning anything big at all. She just wanted to check on Willow and see how she was managing because Willow had been facing so many difficulties lately. Between caring for Drew at home and doing her job as Congresswoman Kane, plus having to share custody of the children and dealing with the latest arguments with Jacinda Bracken, Willow seemed really busy every single day. When Elizabeth asked how things were going, Willow admitted she was feeling a little overwhelmed. She told Elizabeth she was thankful for the support. Of course, part of the reason Willow wanted to keep Drew at home was so she could give him the paralyzing medicine on a regular basis. According to Jen Sidwell, Willow had other caregivers who were paid to look the other way and ignore what was happening. Sidwell even warned Drew to stop blinking for help, saying those people would never come to his rescue. On the April 23 episode, Elizabeth returned to the house. Willow had to take an important phone call and then leave for her office for a short time. Elizabeth kindly offered to stay behind and look after Drew while she was gone. That gave Elizabeth and Drew some quiet time together. Drew kept blinking at her again and again, clearly trying to send a message that he needed help. With her nursing experience and her past connection to Drew, Elizabeth slowly started to sense that something was wrong. She began looking around the room more carefully and soon found the small bottles of medicine that Willow had been using to poison and paralyze Drew. Elizabeth stood still for a moment when she saw them. She was shocked to realize that Willow had been doing this while acting like she was taking good care of him. Even though she felt frightened by how cruel it was, deep down, Elizabeth started thinking about what she could do to help Drew get away from this dangerous situation. What really caught my attention was how perfectly suited Elizabeth was for this moment. She has a kind heart, strong medical knowledge, and a history with Drew that helped her understand the signs he was giving. While Willow was away using her power as a congresswoman, Elizabeth had the chance to discover the truth. This discovery seems like it could bring some important changes to the whole storyline. I keep wondering what Elizabeth will do now that she knows the secret. Will she try to find a safe way to get help for Drew without letting Willow suspect anything right away? Or will she have to pretend everything is normal while she makes her plan? The way the show is unfolding this plot makes me curious to see how everything connects in the coming episodes. It also shows how complicated things can get on General Hospital. People can appear one way on the surface while hiding something much darker underneath. Elizabeth finding those medicine bottles was a real turning point. Now she is carrying this heavy knowledge about what is truly happening with Drew, and it puts her in a very delicate position. Another thing that stood out to me is how the writers are building tension slowly. Elizabeth does not rush into anything. She stays calm even after the shocking discovery, which feels true to her character. I think many viewers will be watching closely to see if she can save Drew before Willow returns and notices anything different. It adds a layer of suspense that keeps the story interesting. These kinds of twists also remind me that in the world of Port Charles, nothing stays hidden forever. Secrets have a way of coming out, especially when someone as caring and observant as Elizabeth is involved. I am looking forward to the next episodes to find out what happens when she decides to take action. I still remember sitting comfortably in my living room the other day with a warm cup of tea beside me, watching General Hospital, when the story focused on poor Drew being completely trapped inside his own body. The paralyzing medicine that Willow had been injecting him with had taken away all his ability to move or speak, leaving him desperate in a way that was hard to watch. He could only use his eyes and those repeated blinks to try and reach out to anyone who might understand what was really happening to him. It was easy to see why he felt so hopeless after being stuck like that for so long with no real voice of his own. Up until that point, it seemed like nobody else had noticed any of the signals Drew was sending out so clearly. Most people around him had missed the clues completely. But then my thoughts turned to Elizabeth, and I started wondering if she would be the one person who finally picked up on something being very wrong with Drew's situation. She has always been so observant, especially with her years of experience as a nurse, and she shares a long history with Drew that might help her see things others could not. Elizabeth made another visit to Willow's house, and from the moment she walked in, the atmosphere felt a little strange. She asked Willow a straightforward, caring question about whether she was taking good care of Drew and making sure his needs were being met every day. When Drew responded with 2 quick blinks that clearly meant no, it caught Elizabeth completely by surprise. That simple exchange planted a strong seed of doubt in her mind and made her start asking herself deeper questions about the kind of care Drew was actually receiving behind closed doors. The more Elizabeth thought about those two blinks, the more uneasy she became. She began to worry that Willow might not be telling the whole truth about Drew's condition and the treatment he was getting. It started to feel like one of those quiet but serious emergencies that can quietly build up in Port Charles until someone finally steps in to help. With her kind heart and strong medical knowledge, Elizabeth seemed like the perfect person to begin connecting all the small pieces together and figuring out what was really going on. Willow could return to the house before Elizabeth had a chance to discover the full truth, but even if that happened, Elizabeth still carried away several important clues from her visit. She did not say anything out loud at the time, but you could tell her mind was working hard, turning everything over and over. Later that day and into the following days, Elizabeth kept replaying the entire scene in her head, Drew's desperate blinks, the way Willow had answered her questions, and all the little details that just did not add up. The growing suspicion would not leave her alone no matter how hard she tried to push it away. What stood out to me the most was how carefully and slowly Elizabeth started to build her understanding of the situation. She went back over the medicine bottle she had found earlier and combined them with the new signals from Drew. It became clearer and clearer that Willow had been acting in a truly cruel way, keeping Drew paralyzed while pretending to be a devoted wife and busy congresswoman. Elizabeth knew she had to speak up eventually about Willow's terrible actions if she wanted to give Drew any real chance at getting his life back and receiving the proper help he needed so badly. Drew may never fully recover to the strong, active man he used to be before all of this happened. The medicine has taken a heavy toll on his body, and the effects could last for a long time. At the same time, quite a few viewers feel he is finally facing some of the consequences that match the kind of choices and behavior he has shown in the past. It is one of those complicated storylines where you can feel sympathy for someone suffering while also seeing that justice has a way of catching up in its own time. On the other side of things, Willow is clearly going to have to answer for everything she has done. Once the truth comes out about how she deliberately kept Drew drugged and hidden away, she will face serious consequences under the law. Her position as Congresswoman Kane and the public image she has worked so hard to build will make the fallout even bigger and more difficult for her to handle. I keep thinking about how this storyline is unfolding so thoughtfully on General Hospital. The writers are letting the tension grow gradually, allowing Elizabeth to discover each new clue one step at a time instead of rushing through everything at once. It feels much more realistic that way, the kind of slow realization that happens when dark secrets are hiding right in plain sight in a busy household. Elizabeth, suddenly finding herself right in the center of this difficult situation, has placed her in a very delicate and challenging position. She must balance her deep concern for Drew's safety with the need to protect herself and avoid tipping off Willow too early. I can picture her sitting quietly at home later on, carefully going over every single detail again and again while trying to decide on the safest and smartest way to move forward without making the danger worse for anyone. These kinds of carefully built plots are exactly why I have stayed with General Hospital for so many years. Something as simple as one caring visit and a couple of meaningful blinks can quietly open up an entire new chapter full of drama, secrets, and important choices in the town of Port Charles. It shows how quickly normal, everyday moments can turn into something much more serious and life-changing when the truth starts to come to light. I am truly looking forward to the upcoming episodes to see exactly what path Elizabeth chooses after learning everything she has discovered. Will she decide to confront Willow directly, or will she first gather more solid proof to make sure Drew stays safe? Will Drew finally receive the medical help and freedom he has been fighting for with every blink? The suspense continues to build in such an engaging way, and I know I will be right here in my chair watching every single day to find out how this important storyline comes together in the end.